How's it going, everybody? This is the Nitty Gritty. My name is Chad. With me is Leonard. And this week, we are going to talk to you about interview segments. Previously, we did one on commentators, we did backstage interviewers and announcers. We are going to cap that off here with a conversation about interview segments. And let me tell you, there was a lot more than I thought there were.
There was.
When
When I
you
looked
look
at
at
the
them
list,
all,
yeah, I think there's more than 20, right?
oh yeah, oh
Yeah.
yeah. And there's going to be
And
some I read off that you're like, wait, what?
yeah, there may be some like it's mostly a WWF thing, right?
Yeah, but the ones that I had not heard of at all were NWA, WCW type interview segments.
Okay, I know two from WCW. One, a Flair for the Gold with Ric Flair, and I'm wearing my Ric Flair for President T-shirt there, which I got from my fiance for Christmas. And
Good gift giver.
woo! That's mandatory. You have to do that. And the other was Mike Awesome's Lava Lamp Lounge when he was doing that 70s guy gimmick.
Well, I'm gonna blow your mind here because there's a lot more.
Blow my mind. Blow my mind.
Well, we're gonna get started. So we're gonna go through these by decades. I'm gonna read off a list, and then we're just kind of comment on the ones from that decade that we feel like commenting on. And
yeah, because again, it would take forever to do every single one, and some are very minor. So it's just going to be more off the cuff.
Absolutely. And we'll get started here. Now, I do not know if this is the first interview segment of its kind, but it's the earliest one that I could find. And that is Buddy Rogers' Corner. And he had, at the latter part of his career, he had gone through WWF and back to Mid-Atlantic. He went all over the place, but he at one point when his career was, nearing its end, came back to the WWF and he had a interview segment called Rogers Corner. And I don't know exactly because I was unable to find it. I really diligently tried, but my best guess is that this is late 70s or just really early 80s. I do know that it predates Piper's Pit. So
okay, see, I thought Piper's Pit was the first one.
Right.
I've not heard of Rogers Corner. Again, this is coming from a period, late 70s, early 80s, where a lot of that TV is not readily available to find, even on the network. They've got some house shows from this period, which I've watched. And Buddy Rogers has served as a manager during this period, the late 70s, early 80s, for different guys. And he's more of an executive assistant kind of guy than a classic manager, and working base manager.
Yeah, he was. Yes, I was going to say he was a fan favorite manager at this point, and he did have this until like 1983, and then from what I read, it became Victor's Corner. There is no host listed there, but that turned into Piper's Pit. So
okay, see, I thought Piper's Pit was organic. I did not know it was a carryover.
Well, we're
all going to learn something here today, even me.
I wouldn't quote that. That's how it's written in the article I read, but I don't know, and I don't know if it's strictly a carryover. So
it could just been the successor of. It was the next thing that they did.
Right. So that's why I spent a little bit more time on that one, because that's the earliest one I could find. I am sure that there were other interview segments that predate it, but I couldn't find any others that started the trend.
Yeah. And when we say interview segment, I don't think we defined this. I think we're looking at those segments with active wrestlers. There's going to be probably a couple that pop up there are active managers or what have you. But active wrestlers, most of them have sets.
It's a theme.
Most of them have names.
Right.
And the goal is usually twofold. One is to get the host over, for the host to get themselves over, and the other is to get over the guest and or the storyline. Sometimes it's their own, sometimes it's not. And the best ones, I think, are the ones who do walk that line of getting themselves over and getting the other person and the other storyline over. And the worst ones are those who just are kind of just, it's about them and they don't really care who's there.
Right.
And since you mentioned it, and I'll ask you this before we go on because I want to ask you this question. Yes, a lot of the early ones had predetermined sets. They were sets off to the side of the arena or the studio. and then later on, it was just sets inside the ring. It was like a tarp and a couple chairs and like some props. So, what do you like better? Do you like the in-ring setup or do you like the dedicated set?
I don't like the in ring setup.
Okay.
I think that it's very obviously just thrown together a lot of times. At least it appears that way. I don't think there's much thought given to it. Obviously, time constraints. I understand if they have to get stuff in and out quickly, but I loved the theme sets. I thought that it really added to the show itself, and I think there's more than enough stars there that they could bring that back in some way, shape, or form.
And
Um,
and two, I think the in ring interrupts the flow of the show
yeah,
because you got to stop every now. From home, they can do other stuff, go to commercial backstage. But if you're in the arena, I assume it disrupts the flow of the show because they got to set it up and then they got to tear it down.
right. Like imagine now. Now I'm not a big advocate for the VIP lounge by any stretch, but can you imagine if it had its own set instead of being in the ring? Like that.
Right, and make it look like a VIP lounge at a really ritzy nightclub. Yeah,
Right.
instead of just throwing a love seat in the
Right.
ring.
Yeah, and a sign.
Yeah, saying there you go. Now Alexa Bliss is doing on the stage with A Moment of Bliss with the Titantron in the back.
Right.
But again, it's still a couple chairs and two
Yeah.
props, and there you go.
Yeah.
But it's not in the ring, but it's not the dedicated set. And two, I mentioned when we were talking ring announcers and backstage interviewers, and Bruce Pritchard being Brother Love, that my buddy Dan went to a WWF show when he was a kid at the Wheeling Civic Center, and he walks in the door and he sees the Brother Love set, and he's go, "Oh, we're gonna get a Brother Love show. We're on TV. We're gonna get," and that was like the number one thing he remembers. So I assume it's a big difference that when you walked in the 80s and you saw the Piper's Pit set, you saw the Body Shop set, you saw the Snake Pit set, you went, "Oh, wow."
Right.
Where now you don't know who you're going to get or not get because it's commercial break, throw the shit in, do it, pull it out.
It's like, oh, it's Ms. TV.
Yeah.
So we'll get started here with the 80s, 1980s.
Yeah, so that was a side notes, couple side notes I had, but let's get into the 80s.
And I will say this, obviously, some of the ones I'm going to mention, I'm going based on where they started. Some of them will run into the 90s, they'll run from one decade to the other. So just look at it that way. So we have the Brother Love Show, we have Piper's Pit, we have the Flower Shop, we have the Body Shop, we have the Snake Pit, we have Blackjack Mulligan's Blackjack Barbecue.
Oh, I don't know that one.
Yeah, we have Buddy Roberts' Buddy Jack's Barstool.
Oh, these are non-WWF ones, aren't they?
Yeah. We have the Dewdrop Inn with Dusty Rhodes. We have Terry Funk's Grill. We have one that I really wish had been in the U.S., Le Brunch de Pat with Pat Patterson.
Oh, that would be so great. Like it's like he's like at a booth with someone and they're getting served for like mimosas.
I think there are some clips of that one. And we have Le Studio with Frenchie Martin. And those two, by the way, I think only aired in Canada. So
okay,
whatever that's worth. We have Jim Cornette's The Louisville Slugger. We have Missy Hyatt's Missy's Manor. And then we have Adrian Street, his Street Corner. Those wrap up the ones from the 80s. So obviously, we're not going to get into all these. Some of them have funny names. And if you want to go and try and look for them, by all means, go ahead. Piper's Pit is obviously the more well-known, most well-known one here, based on the Jimmy Snuka feud. And he had a lot of memorable moments. And I think that's the key with any of these interview segments. If there is a memorable moment to it, then it did at least one thing right. So Piper's Pit, now it predates me a little bit in terms of I was really little. I'm sure I watched it, but I don't recall a lot of them having watched them live. So, but Piper's Pit is a big one. And for me, one of the best ones is the Brother Love Show, as Leonard just talked about. I was at a Saturday Night's Main Event taping where the Brother Love set was out, and there's so many memorable moments with the Brother Love show, Earthquake and Hogan, and you name it. There were a ton of them. Rick Martel and Jake Roberts, with the arrogance in the eyes, that whole thing. There are
Mm-hmm.
so many memorable moments with the Brother Love show, and in terms of Funk's Grill, there's a really cool neon sign in Funk's Grill that I would like to own. And if we're talking about as we go along with the show, things we'd like to own, I would like to have the Funk's Grill sign.
That could be a show one day. Things from wrestling that you would like to have, like as a collector.
Mine would
The
be so
Funk
different
Grill
than
stuff.
most people. Like a lot of people probably now like belts are cool, and I would love to own a belt someday. But I would probably pick out the most off the wall things.
I would too. Not to get off of a side story, but me and my buddy Dan once had Carlito's apple.
That's hey, how long did that last?
We so okay, side story real quick. We wound up going to a big show in Kaiser, West Virginia with a lot of different guys. The One of the guys are cleaning up around the ring in between matches. He picks up Carlito's apple. We're in the front row and we go, oh, and he throws us the apple. We take the apple, we put it in a cup of Sprite to preserve it. We stayed in a hotel room because it's like 4 hours away from where we live. So we stayed in a hotel that night. The next day, we left it in the hotel. We forgot it because I thought Dan took it, and he thought I took it.
Right.
But we briefly owned Carlito's apple.
Well, that's hey, what a great moment. That's,
Yes. Anyway, that's completely off track here. Although we will talk about Carlito in the future.
absolutely.
We
So
will.
the 80s,
So-
Leonard, what do you have? Any thoughts on those 80s shows?
So I do vaguely remember Funk's Grill and Misty's Manor now that you mentioned both of those. And my memory of Funk's Grill is the neon sign. So that would be really cool. And I'm a fan of Adrian Street, and I would love to see the street corner with Adrian Street. I think he's underrated. But of the ones I do remember, Piper's Pit, of course, as you mentioned, hitting Jimmy Snuka with the coconut. Also, the interview he did with jobber Frankie Williams is legendary because of the way Piper did it. And also Andre the Giant's turn and joining Bobby Heenan and ripping the cross from Hulk Hogan's neck happened on Piper's Pit.
Absolutely.
So Piper, again, is a guy that he knew when to make it about himself and he knew when to make it about the other person. And he knew how to get other angles over and his own angles over. So that's why he was one of the best ever. And two, with that, again, this is no, not knowing what Roger's Corner was. To me, Piper's Pit at the time, daytime talk shows were getting big. Geraldo, Phil Donahue, Sally Jesse Raphael, these things.
Right.
And even before the term sports entertainment existed, Vince McMahon was all about emphasizing the entertainment. So my guess was, hey, let's do a talk show, like a daytime talk show, and see where that goes. And of course, Piper would be the best one to host that. And when that got successful, well, let's see if we can't repeat the formula. The Snake Pit was one I really liked because it looked like a reptile house at a zoo.
Yeah,
and there were white snakes crawling around in the middle.
Yeah.
And then a very memorable one moment here was Honky Tonk Man hitting Jake Roberts with his guitar. And as Jake tells the story, Honky Tonk Man grabs the wrong guitar and hit him with not the gimmicked one, but the real one that he would play, and wound up injuring Jake, and that set him down his path to drug addiction because of the pain that he was in due to that. And I actually wound up watching that one tonight. And if you look at it, you will see at one point, Honky Tonk Man looks at the guitar and knows he fucked up, knows he grabbed the wrong one. You can see the look on his face after I think about the second or third hit. He like looks at it and goes, "Oh, I got the wrong one," because it's not busting right.
It's a vicious shot.
Yeah, it is. It is very vicious. So that one's a favorite. The Brother Love show, as you mentioned, was a favorite. A lot of great moments on there. Brother Love, of course, was on Active Wrestler. He was affiliated with the $1 Million Man, who was his benefactor. He did manage the Undertaker for a little bit. Great set, great concept. That was a playoff of televangelists who were very big at the time, like Jim and Tammy Faye Baker and Jimmy Swaggart. So the idea was that he loves you, he loves everybody, he loves money more, and the fact that he's not the altruistic, guy that he's supposed to be. And they never say Christian and never use the Bible. He has the book of love,
Right.
but it's all very much supposed to be a playoff of televangelism.
Absolutely.
And it was certainly a playoff of Bruce Pritchard's talents, who could do a lot of voices and could do a lot of characters, and is a fun guy. If you ever listen to his podcast, so I think that's where that came from. And then I do remember some of the other ones, like the Body Shop and the Flower Shop, weren't big, weren't major to me. The top three for me, I would probably go, Piper's Pit, Brother Love, and the Snake Pit.
Yeah, Flower Shop was with Adrian Adonis, and that was pretty much just existed to further the feud with Rowdy Piper.
Yeah. I think the only real memorable thing there was when Adonis and Piper got into it, and I think Adonis wound up accosting him with like bouquets of flowers.
Right. So we'll move on to the 1990s. 1990 to 1999, we have the Barbershop, we have the Funeral Parlor, we have Heartbreak Hotel, we have King's Court, we have A Flair for the Gold, we have Under the Covers with Sonny, we have The Danger Zone, we have Larry Z's Legends, Kevin Sullivan's Sullivan Saloon.
I don't remember that one.
Love Shack, the Love Shack.
Was that Dude Love?
Yeah.
Okay.
And NWO Nightcap with Eric Bischoff.
I remember Nightcap.
I put a question mark next to this last one, Leonard, because maybe you'll be able to help me out. It came across as the Diamond Mine with DDP, but the Diamond Mine was a stable. I know that. I could find nothing on it being an interview segment.
I vaguely remember the Diamond Mine because I think the background was supposed to look like a mine entrance.
Okay.
And I think it said Diamond Mine on it. And I don't think it was around very long, but I believe, the Vinny Vegas and the Diamond Stud were part of it. And I believe it was like it served for them to bring people on to beat the crap out of and to progress their feuds. So I could totally be wrong on this. Somebody in the comments could be like, that's not what it was at all, but that's what I'm remembering it to be.
We might have a Diamond Mine expert. Hey, who knows? But so Leonard, why don't you go ahead this time? 1990s.
Well, Barbershop, of course, comes to mind because of the turn of Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty and the breakup of the Rockers. Still to this day, when a tag team looks like it's going to break up, it's okay, who's going through the barbershop window? And sometimes I've talked about how I've done fantasy wrestling and I've wrote fantasy feds, that when I do comedy feds, I'll have tag teams turn and I'll have like a barbershop window get rolled out. Like I'll write and a barbershop window appears and whoever goes through the barbershop window. Like that's just the automatic turn sign, is the barbershop window. So that was a cool set because it looked like a real barbershop. And they were doing this because this was when Bruce Beefcake had his famous injury, and he couldn't wrestle at the time because of the facial injuries that he had from the boating accident. The Heartbreak Hotel was another one that I wanted to talk about when I was looking at some. I vaguely remember it. It's actually where the Underfaker debuted with Ted DiBiase.
Yeah. HBK was at this time. So
I'm sorry?
HBK was injured at that time. That's pretty much.
Oh, yes. Yeah, you cut out on me a little bit. Yeah, he was a little bit injured, so that's why they were doing that. But to me, it was also one of those, I know this is a favorite expression of Jim Ross, see if that dog can hunt. And this was right after the period where Shawn was no longer with Sherry Martel. He was using Diesel as a bodyguard. And I think it was the idea of, well, can Shawn Michaels take that next step? Can he be a Roddy Piper, in far as his ability to talk, to get things over as a heel, etc. So I think this was a let's see if that dog can hunt moment.
Right.
And I remember the background was like this big heart with a crack in the middle, I think it was, or a zigzag crack, I think it was, the Heartbreak Hotel. Some of the other ones I do remember, like the Funeral Parlor, but those were the most memorable. Flair for Gold. Flair for the Gold is where we get the Shockmaster debut, which is one of the greatest moments ever in live television history. And it was done up like a penthouse, and Flair's sidekick was Fifi the maid.
Right.
who, in his words, was all the way alive. And they're currently married. That's his current wife, is who played
Yep.
Fifi the maid. And I know that Eric Bischoff at one point talked about her on his podcast and had nothing but great things to say. And most people seem to just absolutely have had adored her
Right.
when she was around. So that was a major. So that was a major one.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Did you mention the Lava Lamp Lounge with Mike
Not
Awesome?
yet.
When?
We're not there yet.
Oh, that was an aughts.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That I figured that was late 90s.
Somebody
Okay.
could prove me wrong on that. It might have existed in '99. The only time I was able to find it mentioned was in 2000. So
Okay. I was thinking it was like a Thunder thing in late 99, but maybe not.
it could be.
So anyway,
You could be right.
so anyway, this was a period where it was kind of a down period for these types of segments.
Yeah.
Because again, I think we had a lot coming out of the 80s because of Piper's Pit. And I just think that they started to die down in the 90s. So you didn't have as many. If you look at a lot of these, they were early 90s. And by mid to late 90s, we weren't seeing a lot of them.
Right. And like you were saying before, I like the segments that were either they mixed it being about the host themselves and other people, or it was more about the other people on their show than it was about the host. Those are the ones that I tend to like the most, which is why I think the barbershop was a good one. I mean, obviously, it had one of the most memorable moments of any interview segment with the breakup of the Rockers. And the funeral parlor was a really good one. When I was a kid, this was a really creepy interview segment. The moment with the Ultimate Warrior getting locked in the casket.
Yes.
Was a big moment for me as a kid. So those are the two. I forgot to mention. I did mention the Danger Zone, but I didn't mention who it was with. That was with Paul E. Dangerously.
Yeah.
But he wasn't aware. I just kind of mentioned the name, the Danger Zone. But yeah. So there's a lot of random ones, and you mentioned the Shockmaster and the Love Shack with Dude Love. I don't think that lasted very long because it was just basically to further the feud with Stone Cold at that time. And Mick Foley doesn't have a lot.
I don't
regard for his.
Don't remember a lot about that one. Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, he doesn't have a lot of high regard for his Dude Love character, but it was on this list. So let's move on to 2000 to 2009.
Okay. I was seeing if I could find something on the Diamond Mine, but I could not. So.
Yeah. Good luck. We don't have that many on the list at this point. And you know what? Throughout this, there was a couple that I did cut out that were on a resource that I found simply because they were of companies that we've never mentioned. Talked about. But anyway, we have the highlight reel. Mm-hmm. We have the Lava Lamp Lounge. We have the Peep Show. We have the Dirt Sheet. And we have Carlito's Cabana. And on this one, I would think, and it lasted a long time, the highlight reel is one of the better ones. If you ask me to rank ones that were strictly in-ring sets, I would put the highlight reel above all of them, because Chris Jericho is so great on the mic, and there's a lot of good moments with the highlight reel. They made use of the set a lot of the times, which is an important thing and a hard thing to do when it was in the ring. So that's a really good one. It was brought back a lot over the years, but that was one that I liked a lot. Christian, although he's very good on the mic, the Peep Show really didn't have that many memorable moments, but it was there. And you know what? One that I forgot to put on my list, as I'm thinking about it out loud now, was the Cutting Edge.
Oh, that was it. I thought that just came later because you didn't mention it.
It might have came later. I'm thinking out loud here, but it was probably around this time anyway. And Carlito's Cabana was good. His was, to me, not maybe in terms of popularity, but Carlito's Cabana was pretty close to Piper's Pit in that it was a mixture of his feuds and him interviewing people.
And I think he hit somebody with an apple at some point to replace the coconut.
Right, yeah. So, and the Lava Lamp Lounge, again, we're not sure on the dates. Maybe we have somebody that really is a big fan of Mike Awesome that could tell us, but it did exist. So
yeah, I vaguely remember him like sitting at a desk with like lava lamps all around him.
Right, as one would.
Yes, yeah. Again, Mike Awesome. A side note, just got so screwed in WCW. I mean, he comes in as the ECW champion, great look, great size, could go for his size. And they make him the fat chick Thriller, and they make him the 70s guy, and they give him the worst gimmicks you could possibly think of. And it's just very sad.
His career is bad timing written all over it.
Yeah, yeah. And he also had didn't he have like an RV or a bus or something, like the Shaggin' Wagon or something?
Might have.
During the 70s era. I don't know. But anyway, again, not a lot here. I agree with you that if you were going to do a rank, Piper's Pit would be number 1, and I would probably put Highlight Reel at number 2. And again, Piper's Pit started the trend in the 80s. I think Highlight Reel started the ones that we saw again in the aughts. Again, Jericho, you can say he's a modern day Piper in a lot of ways with his personality and how he knew how to not only get himself over, but others. And he's hosted other things. He's hosted game shows and award shows. He has host abilities. Again, it was around for a long time, and they got to the point where it became a special attraction. And when you saw the highlight reel, you know it was going to be big time, and you were excited for it, and that's the most important thing. And again, the other ones around this period, again, Peep Show was okay. The Cabana was okay. I liked the Cabana set because it was a little bit different than other things they were doing.
Right.
But yeah, not a lot to talk about here. Highlight Reel is the main one for the era, and I would probably agree with you that the Cabana is underrated and might be for this decade my number 2.
Yeah, and they talk a lot about it in some of the podcasts I listen to. They talk a lot about Carlito and the fact that there were times when he was really committed and really was on in ring and on mic, and he was great. And then there were other times where he just didn't care, and you could tell that.
Right, and that was the source of the Ric Flair promo that he did, the famous one backstage where he's leaving with Tori Wilson. And Ric Flair's like, and here I am walking around trying to figure out my name. Or that was just probably one of the last truly great Ric Flair promos.
Yeah.
That he did. But yeah, but that came from a real place. Again, from everyone I've heard or seen, when Carlito was on, dude was on, and when he didn't care, he didn't care.
Right. Well, let's move on to 2010 to the present. We have Ms. TV. We have the VIP Lounge. We have Down and Dirty with Dutch. We have the Sammy and Kevin Show. We have the Kevin Owens Show. We have A Moment of Bliss, Ambrose Asylum, and obviously this is not in any order because the last one I'm going to mention on this list is Matt Stryker's Classroom.
Oh, I vaguely remember it. It was like a blackboard.
Yeah, so...
And I think there was like a bell would ring because class was in session, and there was a blackboard.
So Leonard, I'll let you go first this time. What do you think of this list?
Yeah, out of this list, I think Ms. TV and the one that he did with Morrison is probably the most memorable ones here. I think Miz is good on the mic, and he plays very well off of Morrison. So I think, but again, that was more of a focus on themselves than on others when you look at that one. Yeah. Some of the lists I looked at, a lot of them put the VIP Lounge on the bottom when they were ranking these. That they put the VIP Lounge on the bottom.
Right.
I think it had a bad set, which we mentioned earlier, and I think MVP was more about getting himself over. And I think he works that character well, but I don't think he's necessarily a great charismatic individual.
Which is why I think the Hurt Business right now is one of the better things on current WWE product right now. They don't have a lot of other people to work with, Retribution and all that nonsense. But I like where MVP is now. But I agree with you on the VIP level.
Yeah, I think he's matured. Again, I'm not watching a lot of the current product. I am aware of the Hurt Business. I do like the Hurt Business. I think he's got the right people as part of that stable around him to make that
on,
work.
Leonard, show us your Retribution shirt. You have it on, right?
Yeah. I underneath the Flair shirt. I'm gonna tear this and reveal myself as a secret member of Retribution. Nard Dog is my name.
Nard Dog. Okay.
I'm Nard Dog, member of Retribution.
Trademark.
Yes, trademark. The Office may have that trademarked. I don't know. Me and Ed Helms. But anyway, is the only one currently running Moment of Bliss.
Well, the last one that was the last episode of that was currently that was marked was like from October. But
Oh, really? I was thinking that I had saw a couple when I was still watching a bit in the spring.
she's still done stuff. And you know what?
Yeah.
As I'm thinking about it, would Firefly Funhouse be part of this in any way? Maybe like
No, it's not an interview segment.
no, it's really not. But there have been guests of the Funhouse.
Yeah, but rare. I don't think I would.
I don't know why we're talking about that.
I don't think I would count it as the same thing. I don't know what I would even call it. It's like a sketch.
If that.
It's more like Tuesday Night Titan sketches. It's
it's true.
It's not an interview. It's not an interview segment. When was the last time they did a KO show? Like, has he done one of those recently? What I'm trying to get at is, are they doing any right now? And it doesn't seem that they are.
They're absolutely doing Ms. TV.
They are doing Ms. TV. See, okay, I didn't know they again. I'm not watching it week in and week. I'm not watching it at all. Let's be honest here. So I'm not watching it. So I don't know what they're doing and they're not doing. So Ms. TV is current at this time.
I mean, I think the Kevin Owens show, I think, pops up from now and again, but not a lot. Like lately, he's been, pretty much a hardcore face, and has been doing.
Yeah, again, it was more of a heel thing to get over what he was doing on the heel side. Moment of Bliss, I'm pretty sure. Well, if you Missy Hyatt and Alexa Bliss, I believe, are the only two women we've mentioned to host these types of segments. And Missy, of course, was a manager and an announcer, not a wrestler like Alexa Bliss is. So yeah, of this crop, nothing really sticks out to me a whole lot as being memorable. Again, of this lot, I would go Miz TV. What was the Miz and Morrison one called again? Dirt Sheet. See, totally forgot already. Yeah, so those would be the ones that I like here. The Moment of Bliss I want to like because I like Alexa Bliss. She's actually from here in Columbus, where I am, Columbus, Ohio. And I want to like that one. And I think it could be something I think Alexa Bliss is someone that's going to continue to get better. And I think she is one of those rare women that when she's done wrestling, I think could stick around as a valet / manager, as an interviewer, as something extra, as something more, because she's got a lot of personality to her. So I think the Moment of Bliss could develop if they let it, because I think to the point where they've gotten bland. They're just a guy with a mic standing in the ring, and they're used to get over a certain angle because they can't think of anything else.
Yeah, and I like Alexa Bliss too. I like A Moment of Bliss. I just think that they could give more to it, as we were talking about earlier. At the period there where they just kind of threw out a couple chairs, and that was pretty much it. Which I think is not, she's very good on the mic. I think that there are times when she, makes it about her feuds, and there are times when she just makes it about the host. So in that way, it covers the ground of segments that I like, because for those reasons, I think it works. I think they could give more investment to it. Now, I have no idea if there's an injury going on with her or anything like that. She has worked from time to time. She's knee deep in the Fiend storyline right now, which is she's okay with him, but I think she's really good as a talent. I think she could really add to the women's division just on her own. So that's my opinion on her. But anyway,
what we should do at some point is I think we should do top 10 wrestlers from Ohio.
There you go. Well, that'll be a bonus show one day. How about that?
Add that to the list. Top 10 from Ohio.
I don't think you're going to see Ambrose Asylum again anytime soon.
No.
That was
also from Ohio. He's from Ohio.
That was pretty much just a joke anyway. But it existed. So yeah, like now, as you said, now we're in the period where they're not giving a lot of attention to detail with these segments. They're just kind of using them to promote the feud of whoever the host is, by and large.
Right.
And for those, that makes it very frustrating as a viewer, because of people who grew up with some of these segments and know what they can be. It just, to me, isn't fun. It's not very engaging. And in terms of The Miz, I am not a fan of The Miz. And I say that not as a person who's like, oh, he's a heel, you're not supposed to like him. He makes me change the channel. I think he's annoying.
And he's from Ohio.
Yeah, and he's from Ohio. And the fact that John Morrison is second fiddle to him, to me, is a crime. John Morrison is so good in the ring, and there's something wrong there. I get it in terms of the Miz has been around forever, but anyway, Miz TV, I don't envision any way he cashes in the Money in the Bank briefcase without it being annoying to me. Like I don't see it, but
I've never minded Miz. I think he's gotten better over the years. I mean, he's not great in the ring. He's gone from like a 2 to a 6. He's gotten better on the mic. He probably started at a 4 and he's up to like an 8. He works way better as a heel than he does a face.
Just picture me as the Daniel Bryan in terms of how I view the Miz overall.
Okay.
Like
and I think Miz, I think he works hard. Like he wants it. He tries very hard.
He does. His longevity and the fact that he hasn't really gotten injured that much, I can't fault him for not being a hard worker. I will say that. I find him.
And not everybody's going to like everybody. Maybe, again, another topic, we do our top 5 least favorites or most annoying, wrestlers of all time. And then we should maybe do our top 5, like, secret favorites or people we love that nobody else loves. As I keep throwing out show ideas.
He'd be on my least favorite for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So
least favorite wrestlers from Ohio. That's next week.
We're going to do a month-long salute to Ohio soon. So it's coming. But I have some random ones here.
Yeah.
I couldn't figure out when they started. So it was kind of hard to really pinpoint them. And one of them.
Miscellaneous bag. Hit it.
Bulldog Bob Brown's Doghouse.
Oh, I would have no clue.
Buddy Rose's Rose Garden.
Oh, no, don't know that one.
The Stud Stable with
Ron Fuller.
Yes.
AKA Rob right. With Rob Fuller or Ron Fuller. There's 2.
I'm not sure off the top of my head.
Okay, because so Rob Fuller is brother of Ron Fuller, and he was also Colonel Rob Parker,
right, in
WCW. They both had versions of the Stud Stable at one point or another in WCW and in Continental. So yes, could be either or.
Wayne's Honky Tonk, which is the Honky Tonk Man.
Wow, where was that at?
Yeah, see, I don't know.
There's because he was working, I think, as Honky Tonk Wayne in Canada for a little bit.
Yeah, Honky Tonk. Which type that into Google, Honky Tonk Wayne's Honky Tonk. Mm-hmm. You're not going to get anything.
You're gonna find a bar in Lubbock, Texas, is what you're gonna find.
Well, that came up under Blackjack Barbecue. I got all these restaurants called Blackjack Barbecue.
Nice.
And then the last one I have is Scotty the Body's Dirty Laundry, which Scotty the Body is Raven.
Yes.
But so these are all random ones that I came across. I have not seen any of these.
No, I don't know any of those.
Obviously, but I don't know much about them.
I would question how long they were, if they were even aired. I would question if they even aired. Like, did they tape them for possible airing and then didn't use them? Or maybe they were something they did at a house show a couple times to try the concept. Like, so I would question.
I would have paid money to see Greg Valentine and Honky Tonk Man, Rhythm and Blues, with their own interview segment, Wayne's Honky Tonk. I would. Yes,
or Rhythm and Snooze, as Honky likes to call the tag team.
Anyway, so yeah, we covered a lot of the talking points that I had jotted down already. Good. And how I'll leave it here is, do you think that they should retire these for a while, or do you think that they should shift back to sets? I mean, obviously we both agreed that we would rather see sets, right, but I honestly think that it would be, maybe they could try something new with giving some of these backstage interviewers their own segments.
Yeah, that might work. And given the pandemic too, it would be very easy to construct a set like this.
Yeah.
And to have the set and to use it to have an enclosed set, and you could do it pre-taped, and you could, like some of the stuff they do with the Firefly Funhouse, you could maybe do some things like that. I don't know really where you would want to go or how you would want to do it. But during this era, I think it is something that you could do as something different. Other than that, as of right now, as we talked about, there's not a lot of current ones or people doing it currently. Those who are not that notable. So I would definitely say, yeah, let's retire it. And when you get someone who you think would knock this out of the park, then you can bring it back. And I would definitely do it with a dedicated set and with some dedicated time, and to really let the host do what we talked about, what Jericho did, what Piper did. I can get myself over, I can get others over.
And honestly, what we were saying, when the crowds do start going back to arenas and stadiums, like we were saying with the Brother Love show, when Dan would go or when I would go and we would see the Brother Love set, I think a set would make the whole event more engaging. If it was a set that we
Yeah, the more you have set up, we talked about when we did the intra stages and rings, how it was really cool to see the different pay-per-view sets, or even when you go to SmackDown and you saw the fist.
right, yeah.
I went to a SmackDown and it was cool as hell to see the fist punching through the wall. So
Right. Well, that about wraps up our interview segments. If there's one that we didn't mention, if you're a big fan of Down and Dirty with Dutch Mantell, please let us know.
Yeah, if you have seen or have knowledge of any of the ones where he went, I got no clue. Please fill us in. Send links if you have them. Tell us more about what they were going on. Did I completely misremember what the diamond mine was? Fill us in.
Yeah, and if you want to send me a Wayne's Honky Tonk shirt, anybody out there watching, please do. For Leonard, my name is Chad. We will see you next week.